about one very special woman who has brought Marcel and me, and many of us here today. She is 72, and she was born in an air raid shelter just behind this building here in 1942 bombings in World War II. And when I first contacted her, I was assigned that location as the poet. When I first contacted her to ask about her story, I didn't actually realize that she was my step-aunt until my dad mentioned it. And when we were interviewed by the Straits Times, Marcel and I, about the locations we were given, I quite openly said that I'm really glad I got that location instead of Marcel, because I would have never known this part of my family, this part of history, and I would never have had the opportunity to meet such a wonderful woman and bring her story to life. This poem is called Let It Shine. She fills her hands with plasticine and molds a cast of her father's face. He must be handsome, all soldiers are. He must be smart, all daddies are. He must come home with a jar of candied stars to scatter across the hungry years. In between gaps, she fills ravenous hands with jagged brick, gripping tongues to liquor paths clean with stories. Her mother tells of the morgue that day, floor sheen with blood. And her older brother makes impressions of sirens and bombs, the woo, the woo, the woo, the whistle, the searchlights. In 1942, seeking out the tiny girl in the belly of her mother, all the tiny people running under plain fire, they were gushing into fields, into trains, out their houses. Those who made it in the shelters were considered lucky. Where was he? Kelly, father, husband, teacher, now volunteer soldier. Kelly pressing a picture of Our Lady of Perpetual Help in his pregnant young wife's hands and kissing his son's goodbye. Kelly, was he watched over by Our Lady Mary? Her mother couldn't answer in the rush down the tunnel. Dimlit brick held her hands in a silent prayer for somewhere beyond the reach of their fingers. 100 people shuddered in a still, unventilated room beneath the earth for the hope of loved ones out in open war. And that was when the tiny unborn girl chose to cry out. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, a motto from her father's school days in Loyola College in Chile. Let it shine, this tiny baby stirred by death. Let it shine, she cried, arriving on concrete, hard with premonitions and shadows that Kelly was lost. Let it shine. They would later find the shrapnel embedded in his chest and a flat bombed out by the same blast that had taken him away. They and so many families wandering unsettled in the Strait settlements. Let it shine. Let it shine. 46 days later, in occupied Singapore, in a church, they would name her Mary, his child with no crib for a bed. And she would be her mother's joy, a spark that had trembled long after the light of the South had set. Let it shine, because if anything else, there is a little part nestled in us that can warm up the darkness just by being there if we choose to give birth to it. Now the woo and the whistle are gone. The war is long over. Mary stands in a shelter, gripping jagged brick to steady her feet. His television cameras ask her what this empty, airy shelter means to her. But the walls have ears, and if you're quiet, mouths to echo what they have seen. They say, let it shine, let it shine. They say, let your light shine under 3 meters of ground. Let your light shine in between round buttons of uniform. Let it shine before others so they can see a way through the storm. See a way when you're gone. Let it shine. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.